AP, New York. As Americans go to the polls to cast their votes in the crucial midterm elections, which are strongly impacted by inflation, Wall Street is behind in early trade. This week brings additional data on that front. The government releases data on consumer inflation on Thursday. It has been rising at the fastest rate in decades. The outcome of the American elections could result in a divided administration between Democrats and Republicans, which would be good for the markets. Early on Tuesday, the S&P 500 showed no change. The Nasdaq decreased marginally while the Dow slightly increased. After failing to meet its sales and profit projections, Take-Two Interactive suffered. A breaking news update is here. The prior report from AP is below. S&P 500 futures increased by 0.16%, while Dow Jones Industrial Average futures increased by 0.13%. With record-breaking voter turnout anticipated, the U.S. House and Senate are up for grabs, potentially splitting the government between Democrats and Republicans. In a remark, Stephen Innes of SPI Asset Management stated that traders should expect markets to trade political headlines rather than actual information. This year, every seat in the U.S. House of Representatives and roughly one-third of the Senate are up for election. Control of the two chambers of Congress, which are presently led by Democrats, is at stake. Gridlock rather than significant, far-reaching policy changes that would interfere with tax and spending plans would likely result from a divided administration. Stocks have historically increased more than usual when a Democratic White House has shared power with a divided or Republican Congress. According to analysts, a strong showing by Democrats in the midterms could result in higher spending to support the economy, which could feed inflation and force the Federal Reserve to continue raising interest rates to manage prices. Sharp reductions in expenditure might hurt rather than help, analysts claim, since academics predict that recessions will hit many economies as an inevitable byproduct of the fight against inflation. In a study, Owanda's Craig Erlam stated that, on the one hand, the likelihood of reduced expenditure could be perceived as supporting the fight against inflation, but on the other hand, the economy could be headed for recession, and inaction in government won't help the issue. According to economists, the Consumer Price Index increased by 8% from a year earlier in October, which is somewhat less than the 8.2% inflation rate in September. Share prices are also affected by earnings reports. Approximately 85% of the reporting period for summertime profits has passed, and S&P 500 businesses are on target to deliver an increase of little over 2%. The S&P 500's profits are expected to decline by almost 1.5% in the last 3 months of the year, according to analysts. Tuesday is a challenging day for the video game industry because of the strong dollar, the erosion of discretionary expenditure caused by growing inflation, and the easing of the epidemic, which has given people greater freedom to go outside. Additionally, there haven't been many big movie releases that boost sales. At noon in Europe, the DAX in Germany rose 0.3%, while the CAC 40 in Paris was flat after falling earlier. The FTSE 100 declined 0.2% in London. Amid positive earnings reports, Tokyo's Nikkei 225 rose 1.3% to 27,872.11 in Asia. The Australian S&P/ASX 200 rose 0.4% to 6,958.90, while the Kospi in Seoul increased 1.2% to 2,399.04. The Shanghai Composite Index dropped 0.4% to 3,064.49, while the Hang Seng in Hong Kong fell 0.2% to 16,557.31. The Thai Set increased by 0.5%. Due to a holiday, India's marketplaces were closed. On the New York Mercantile Exchange, benchmark U.S. crude oil fell 58 cents to $91.21 a barrel in other trading. On Monday, it dropped 82 cents to $91.79 per barrel. From 146.63 Japanese yen, the US dollar dropped to 146.50 yen. The euro decreased from $1.0016 to 99.94 cents. The benchmark S&P 500 increased 1% on Monday, while the Dow Industrials increased 1.3%. Nasdaq Composite increased by 0.9%.